I was always the other daughter. The one who didn't need constant attention. While my younger sister Sarah battled asthma, I battled invisibility in our own home. Every morning started the same way, Mom rushing to Sarah's room to check her breathing, while I got myself ready for school. "Sarah, honey, how are you feeling today?" "Let me check your temperature," Mom would say, her voice dripping with concern. "Don't forget your inhaler. Do you want me to call Dr. Thompson?" I remember standing in the doorway, already dressed and ready for school, watching this daily ritual. My lunch was always whatever I could throw together myself, usually just a sandwich and an apple. Sarah got specially prepared meals, with all her favorite foods. Dad wasn't much different. He worked extra hours to pay for Sarah's medical bills, and when he was home, his attention went straight to her. "How's my little fighter doing?" he'd ask, completely passing by me on his way to Sarah's room. The pattern continued year after year. While Sarah went from specialist to specialist, I learned to take care of myself. I did my homework without help, packed my own bags for school trips, and figured out how to deal with teenage problems on my own. Mom never worked, she was too busy being Sarah's personal nurse and advocate. By my senior year of high school, I had perfect grades and a clear plan. I applied for scholarships behind my parents' backs. They were too busy taking Sarah to yet another specialist to help with college applications anyway. The day I got my full scholarship letter, I ran home excited to share the news. I found Mom in the kitchen, preparing Sarah's special allergen-free dinner. "Mom, I got a full scholarship to State University. You and Dad won't have to pay anything." "That's nice, dear. Could you set the table? Sarah needs to eat on schedule with her new medications." That moment crystallized everything for me. I realized I would never be the priority in this house, no matter what I achieved. But instead of letting it crush me, I let it fuel me. I didn't need their attention or approval. I had something better, I had my freedom. The day I left for college, Mom was too busy with Sarah's latest health crisis to even say goodbye properly. Dad just handed me some gas money and said, "Drive safe." College flew by like a dream. I threw myself into my studies, made real friends for the first time, and graduated with honors. The marketing department at Reynolds and Company snapped me up right after graduation, and suddenly I was earning more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I hadn't heard much from my parents during college, just the occasional text from Mom asking if I was doing okay before immediately launching into updates about Sarah's latest health issues. But that changed once I started working. The first call came about 6 months into my job. "Erica, honey," Mom's voice was sugary sweet, a tone I hadn't heard directed at me before. "Your father and I are in a bit of a tight spot. Sarah needs some new treatments, and with the medical bills." I cut her off. "How much do you need, Mom?" "Oh, just $2,000. We'll pay you back next month." They never did pay me back. Not for that loan, or the next one, or the one after that. But honestly, I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had something they needed, and that gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. Then I met Mike. He always making me laugh, always seeing the bright side. We dated for a year before he proposed, right there in that same break room with a ring hidden in a coffee cup. When we told my parents we were getting married, Mom's first response was, "Oh, but Sarah's having some health issues right now. We might not be able to contribute much." "We don't need anything," I told her firmly. "We're handling it ourselves." And we did. We had a small, perfect wedding with just our closest friends. Mike and I paid for everything ourselves, took a modest honeymoon to the beach, and came back ready to build our life together. We both worked hard and saved every penny we could. Within 2 years, we had enough for a down payment on a small apartment. 3 years later, it was paid off completely. "We should have a baby," Mike said one night, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset. I looked at him, this wonderful man who had given me everything I'd never had growing up, unconditional love, support, and a true partnership. "Yes," I said. "We should." Emily was born on a spring morning, perfect and healthy. Mike was the proudest dad I'd ever seen, taking pictures of every little thing she did. When she was 2 months old, he got a big promotion at work. Just one business trip, he told me, kissing Emily's forehead. 3 days in Chicago, then I'm all yours again. I drove him to the train station that morning. That was the last time I saw him. The call I got wasn't from Mike, it was from the railway company. There had been an accident. The train had derailed. There were no survivors. The first few weeks after Mike's death passed in a blur. I moved through my days like a ghost, going through the motions of feeding Emily, changing her, trying to keep both of us alive while feeling half dead inside. The insurance company called with details about Mike's life insurance policy, but money wasn't what I needed most right then. I needed help. "Mom," I said over the phone, my voice cracking. "I can't do this alone. Could you help me with Emily? Just for a few months while I get back on my feet. I'll pay you, whatever you want." There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh, honey," Mom said, and for a moment I felt hope. Then, I'm not as young as I used to be. Taking care of a baby is so demanding, and with my blood pressure. I just can't risk my health, Erica. Maybe you could hire someone? You have the insurance money now, right? The words hit me like a slap. I thought about all those years Mom had devoted to Sarah's care, how she'd never worked, because Sarah needed her constant attention. But now, when her other daughter needed her, when her granddaughter needed her. "Yeah," I said flatly. "I'll figure something out." And I did. I found a wonderful nanny named Maria who loved Emily like her own. The insurance money meant I could afford the best care for my daughter, and slowly, we settled into a new normal. Emily grew from a baby into a toddler, showing more of Mike's smile every day. Then came the call about Sarah's engagement. "Your sister is marrying James Peterson," Mom gushed over the phone. "His family owns that big real estate development company. Can you believe it?" "That's great," I said, watching Emily stack blocks on our living room floor. "I'm happy for her." But the next call wasn't so joyful. Dad sounded stressed. "Erica, we need to talk about Sarah's wedding. We're taking out a loan. Using the house as collateral." When he told me the amount, I felt sick. "Dad, no, that's your house. Your retirement security. You can't risk that for one day." "Now listen here," he said, his voice getting that stern tone I remembered from childhood. "We won't have the Petersons thinking we can't give Sarah a proper wedding. We've already signed the papers." I tried reasoning with them. I offered to help pay for a more modest celebration. But Mom just got offended. "You don't understand, Erica. This is Sarah's big day. She deserves her dream wedding. We can't have her future in-laws thinking we're common." I thought about my own wedding, small, modest, perfect. Mike and I had paid for everything ourselves, proud to start our life together without debt. But of course, Sarah needed something grander. Sarah always needed more. Sarah's wedding was exactly what you'd expect, extravagant, over the top, and, according to Mom, absolutely perfect. Then Sarah moved away with James to Boston, and suddenly my parents' perfect daughter wasn't so perfect anymore. "Can you believe she won't even take our calls?" Mom sobbed into the phone one evening. "We took out that loan for her wedding, and now she won't even help with the payments." I bit back an "I told you so" and instead said, "That must be hard, Mom." Gradually, my parents started calling more often, not just when they needed money. They wanted to see Emily, invited us for Sunday dinners, remembered my birthday for the first time in years. It felt nice. Like maybe we could be a real family. I started helping them out, paying bills here and there, buying groceries. For Dad and Mom's 35th wedding anniversary, I surprised them with a 2-week vacation to Florida and a new car for Dad. "You're such a good daughter, Erica," Mom said, actually hugging me. It was the first time I could remember her doing that in years. Then Dad got sick. Really sick. something with his heart that kept him out of work for months. One evening, they asked me to come over after Emily's bedtime. "We're going to lose the house," Dad said, his voice weak. "The loan payments, without my salary." Mom was crying. "We don't know what to do, Erica. We're behind on payments already." "Move in with us," Mom suggested suddenly. "We could help with Emily after school, and you could help with the loan payments." "Please, sweetheart. We don't want to lose our home." I thought about my apartment, my independence, the life I'd built for myself and Emily. "I don't know, Mom. It's an hour commute to work from here." "Please," Dad said, and I saw real fear in his eyes. "We'll make it work." Emily would love having her grandparents around. They were right about that part. When I told Emily we might move in with Grandma and Grandpa, her whole face lit up. Within a month, we were moved in. I found good tenants for my apartment, a young couple with steady jobs who signed a year-long lease. Emily was overjoyed, running around the house exploring every corner like it was a magical castle. I took over the loan payments and most of the household expenses. Mom seemed to transform overnight into the grandmother she'd never been before, picking Emily up from school, helping her with homework, making her favorite snacks. "Look what Grandma made for you, Emily," she'd say, pulling fresh cookies from the oven. Emily would beam, and I'd try not to remember all the times I'd come home to an empty kitchen as a child. For a while, it seemed to work. Dad's health improved, though slowly. I adjusted to the long commute, telling myself it was worth it to see Emily so happy. Every month when I made the loan payment, I reminded myself that I was helping my parents keep their home. But there was always this nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a voice that whispered, "How long can this last? When will the other shoe drop?" After Dad recovered and returned to work, I noticed Mom started making excuses about watching Emily. "My back hurts today, Erica. I'm not as young as I used to be. It's so exhausting keeping up with a child her age." Finally, one morning, she just came out with it, "I think you should hire a nanny. I can't handle this anymore." So I hired Karen, a sweet older lady who clicked with Emily immediately. Every morning, I'd leave for my hour-long commute to work, wondering why I was still living in my parents' house when I had a perfectly good apartment across town. But every time I mentioned moving back, Mom would bake her famous apple pie, the one she knew Emily loved, and say things like, "Oh, but we love having you both here. Don't we live so well together?" Emily would beam, her face covered in apple filling, and I'd push down my frustration for another month. This went on for 2 years. Then one evening, Mom and Dad sat me down after Emily went to bed. "Honey," Mom started, her eyes already welling up. "We still have 2 years left on Sarah's wedding loan." Dad jumped in, "We know it's a lot to ask, but could you stay until it's paid off? We're so close to being free of it." I thought about the exhausting commute, the way my life had been put on hold. But then I thought about Emily's happy face when she talked about living with her grandparents. "Okay," I said. "1 more year." I called my tenants and extended their lease. Then came the day that changed everything. I walked up to the house after another long day at work, and there was Sarah, standing in the doorway with a very pregnant belly. "Move away from the door, Sarah," Mom screeched from inside. "You'll catch your death in that draft." Sarah smirked at me as she stepped aside. Well, look who's here." Inside, it was like stepping back in time. Mom was fluttering around Sarah like a worried hen, adjusting pillows, checking her temperature, asking if she needed anything. "I made your favorite dinner, Sarah. And there's herbal tea for the baby." During dinner, Sarah dropped her bombshell. "I've decided to have the baby here," she announced. "So you and Dad can help with the newborn." Mom's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Of course we will. We'll help with everything." I sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, as the memory hit me like a physical blow. Me, alone with 3-month-old Emily, desperately calling Mom after Mike's death. "You know I can't risk my health taking care of a baby, Erica. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw with perfect clarity what I'd been trying to ignore for years. Nothing had changed. Nothing would ever change. Sarah would always be the one who needed them, and I would always be the one who needed to understand. For the next 2 weeks, I watched history repeat itself in excruciating detail. Mom waited on Sarah hand and foot, bringing her breakfast in bed, scheduling doctor's appointments, and stocking the house with her favorite foods. The monthly apple pie that had been Mom's way of keeping Emily and me there? It stopped appearing altogether. The final straw came one evening when I overheard Mom and Sarah discussing nursery plans for my room and Emily's room. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the living room where everyone was gathered. So that's it? You're just going to pretend the last few years never happened? That Sarah didn't abandon you with a massive loan that I've been helping pay? Sarah rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. Saint Erica to the rescue. Sarah, honey, don't get upset. It's not good for the baby, Mom fussed. No, let's talk about this, I pressed on. Let's talk about how you mortgaged your house for her wedding, and then she disappeared. Let's talk about how I'd been paying that loan while she was off living her best life. That's none of your business, Sarah snapped. Nobody asked you to pay anything. If you're so unhappy here, why don't you just go back to your precious apartment? Erica, Mom cut in, practically pushing me toward the door. Why don't you run to the store? We need a few things. She thrust a shopping list into my hands. It'll give everyone a chance to calm down. I felt like a child being sent to my room, but I went. Maybe the fresh air would help me think clearly. 20 minutes later, I returned with the groceries. The sight that greeted me stopped me cold. Emily was sitting on the front steps, crying, surrounded by hastily packed bags and boxes, all our belongings. Mommy! She ran to me, sobbing. Aunt Sarah yelled at me. She said we had to get out, and when I started crying, she scared me and pushed all our stuff out here. Something snapped inside me. I stormed into the house. How dare you? I shouted. How dare you treat my daughter like this? Erica, calm down, Dad started. No, I will not calm down. For years, I've watched you favor Sarah. When Mike died, and I needed help with Emily, you couldn't be bothered. But Sarah snaps her fingers and you jump. I paid your bills, your loan, helped save your house, and this is how you repay me? By throwing my child out? Now listen here, Mom began. No, you listen. I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who's supposed to understand when Sarah needs something. I've given you everything, and you've given me nothing but scraps of attention when Sarah wasn't around to demand it all. I grabbed the grocery bags and hurled them across the room. Cans rolled across the floor, eggs cracked, and vegetables scattered everywhere. Mom gasped. Sarah smirked. Dad's face turned red with anger. Get out, he roared. Get out of our house, and don't you dare come back. You're no daughter of ours, Mom added, her voice cold. We never want to see you again. I stood there, breathing hard, looking at these people who were supposed to be my family. Then I turned and walked out, closing the door on 28 years of trying to be good enough. Standing on the sidewalk that night, surrounded by hastily packed bags and boxes, I felt completely lost. Emily's small hand gripped mine tightly as tears rolled down her cheeks. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands, trying to think clearly. Our apartment was rented out for another year, and I couldn't just kick the tenants out. Legally, I needed to give them 3 months' notice. I called a nearby hotel first, then ordered an Uber XL to help with our bags. As Emily fell asleep in the hotel bed that night, I sat in the darkness with my laptop, searching for temporary apartments. The next morning, I found a furnished month-to-month rental about 15 minutes from my office. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. I called my tenants while Emily was eating breakfast. Hi, Lisa, I said to my tenant. I hate to do this, but I need to give you notice. Some family circumstances have changed. Lisa was understanding. Of course. We'll start looking right away. Take care, Erica. The next 3 months were strange. Our temporary apartment felt like living in limbo, not quite homeless, but not quite home either. Emily was quieter than usual, processing everything in her own way. Finally, after what felt like forever, Lisa called to say they'd found a new place. 3 months to the day after being thrown out of my parents' house, Emily and I walked back into our apartment. The moment I turned the key in the lock, something shifted inside me. This was our home. Our safe place. No drama, no favoritism, no walking on eggshells. We're home. Emily ran from room to room, rediscovering her old toys and books we'd left behind. That night, after Emily was asleep, I sat down and really looked at our finances. We were doing well, better than well, actually. Without supporting my parents, I had extra money each month. I opened a new savings account specifically for Emily's college fund and set up automatic monthly transfers. Over the next few weeks, we settled back into our old routine. Emily went back to her old school, where her friends welcomed her back with open arms. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion I'd been too distracted to pursue while living with my parents. 6 peaceful months passed. Emily and I had found our rhythm again: school, work, movie nights, weekend adventures. No drama, no guilt, no complicated family dynamics. Just us. Then came the knock at our door one Sunday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole. My heart stopped. There stood my parents, and they were holding a baby. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. "Erica, please," Mom started crying immediately. "We need your help." Dad looked older than I remembered, more broken. "Sarah, she's gone." They told me the whole story as they stood in my doorway. I hadn't invited them in. Sarah's husband had discovered she was cheating. A DNA test proved the baby wasn't his. He divorced her and refused any responsibility for the child. And Sarah? She dropped the baby with our parents and disappeared. "We don't know where she is," Mom sobbed. "She won't answer our calls. We can't do this alone, Erica. We need you to move back in. Help with the loan payments, help with the baby." "I'm too old to care for an infant," Mom added, making that familiar tired face I'd seen so many times before. "Please, sweetheart. We'll lose the house." I looked at them, really looked at them. Mom's manipulative tears. Dad's desperate eyes. The innocent baby in their arms. And suddenly, I saw everything with perfect clarity. "No," I said quietly. "What?" Mom's tears stopped abruptly. I said, "No, I won't help you. Not this time." "How can you be so heartless?" Mom's voice rose, echoing through the hallway. "Your own family. We'll be out on the street. They'll take our house. All because you're too selfish to help." Several neighbors' doors opened, curious faces peeking out. "You want to do this here, Mom? Fine." My voice was steady. "Let's talk about how you refused to help me when Mike died and I had a 3-month-old. Let's talk about how you mortgaged your house for Sarah's wedding. Let's talk about how Sarah abandoned you with that loan, just like she's abandoned her baby now. This isn't about me being heartless, this is about you finally facing the consequences of your choices." "How dare you," Dad started. "No, how dare you? You created this situation with your constant favoritism. You taught Sarah she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. And now you want me to clean up your mess again? Not happening. We're your parents," Mom wailed. "No," I said firmly. "You're Sarah's parents. You made that very clear the night you threw my daughter out on the street. Now please leave, and don't come back. Forget my address, forget my phone number, forget I exist, just like you did for most of my life." I closed the door on their protests and leaned against it, breathing hard. Through the door, I could hear Mom's continued screaming, but it didn't touch me anymore. "Mommy?" Emily stood in the hallway, watching me. "Are you okay?" I walked over and hugged her tight. Yes, baby. I'm better than okay. I'm free. That was the last time I saw my parents. I don't know what happened to them or Sarah or the baby. Sometimes Emily asks about them, and I'm honest with her. I tell her that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. These days, our life is good. Emily is thriving in school, I love my job, and we're building the kind of life I always dreamed of, one based on real love, not obligation or manipulation. Sometimes, late at night, I look at old family photos and feel a twinge of sadness for what could have been. But then I look at Emily, growing up strong and secure in the knowledge that she is loved unconditionally, and I know I made the right choice.